Hello, listeners. Welcome to another exciting episode of Let's Talk Education Africa podcast. It seems I, as a host, I seem to be, interacting with people who are in the EdTech space of sorts, or people who are sort of leveraging on technology, to facilitate teaching and learning in our classrooms across the continent. Today I have a really, really special guest. His name is Oluwaseun Kayode. I wanted to give a brief introduction of, who he is and what he does, but I'll leave that to him. He is doing some really exciting stuff in Nigeria, and I'm very happy to have him here. And I hope, you guys are going to enjoy the session that we're going to have together. So let's get right in. Oluwaseun Kayode.
Yeah, Kwame.
Welcome to the Let's Talk Education Podcast Africa.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Some brief background.
All right. So my name is Oluwaseun Kayode, and I currently live and work out of Lagos, Nigeria. I'm the founder of Schoolinka, and what Schoolinka does is that we are solving the problem of poor teaching quality by working with education experts to design high quality training that is being delivered to teachers and school leaders, so they are competent enough, to deliver quality learning to millions of children across the region. I would say that like I used to share with people, I came into education by passion. I didn't study education in school. I studied accounting for my first degree. But for me, my venture into education really is just my own personal mission to ensure that young people have access to the gift of transformative education. And so that's what I've been doing since I, left school in 2015, working on local and international projects that helped to advance access to quality education, especially in remote communities, in communities that are really underserved. I've also worked at the intersection of youth development and technology, worked with an international organization where we scaled youth development programs to more than 120 countries, right? I led a team of 25 at that time to do that work. And so for me, I used to call myself a trisector athlete, so to say. And that's because what I'm doing really is, trying to mobilize resources between the government, the private sector, the public institutions, and bringing all those three players together and see how we can bring resources together to continually, advance access to quality education, youth development in Africa as a whole.
Interesting.
So I'm really happy to be here. Yeah.
Interesting. I hear quality education, youth development, good stuff. Let's backtrack a bit. You highlighted the fact that you were passionate about, if you like, passing on quality education. All right.
Yeah.
Let's probe that further. Where did that passion come from?
All right, so I think I can just share a bit about my own story as well, just some highlights that really points to what I currently do now. So I am from a very humble background, and for me, accessing education was a struggle. It was something we fought to have, right? I had very loving parents. I still have very loving parents, by the way, and a very loving family and very supportive one.
Right.
And I know that in the middle of not being able to afford the luxury of life, my parents made it a point of duty to ensure that all their children had access to education. Now, it's not about the quality of education you receive, it's about you really just have to go to school. And so I remember in school back then, right, the kind of education I received was really half-baked. And that was what my parents could afford really at that point in time. I attended public schools, and I remember in my JS2, that's my junior secondary education, the class 2, I didn't have a seat to sit for a full year. And in that classroom, they would ask people who have seats to sit in the front, while we that do not have seats should sit at the back. And for me, I used to wonder, like, what kind of arrangement is that? We sitting on the floor should be the ones sitting in the front so that we can see the teacher clearly, right? Because those on the seat are a bit elevated. So it was really crazy down there, really accessing education. And for me, right, in my second year in my senior secondary education, I was about to be sent away from school. And then I remembered a teacher at that point stood up and said she was going to raise her hand to ensure that I get back into school. She made all the pleas she can make. She wrote a letter to the Ministry of Education. That's how I was able to get back into school. In my second year in the university, and this me just skipping, to these major highlights, I also dropped out of school because my father could not pay my school fees at that point in time. I remember my mom had fibroid at that point in time, and she wasn't, my dad had to call me out of the hospital wardroom that day and asked me, which one should he pay for? Should he pay for my mom's hospital bills, or should he pay for my own school fees? And that was a no-brainer question, right? Of course, you pay for my mom's hospital bills. And at that point, the most painful thing for me wasn't the fact that I was about to be a dropout of school. No, the most painful thing was just seeing the hurt on my dad's face, not being able to take care of his wife and his son at the same time. And so I was at home for about 3 months until I got an email from MTN Foundation telling me I had won a scholarship. And I'd written this examination like many, for those who don't know who MTN is a big telecommunications company in sub-Saharan Africa. I'd written the exam for the scholarship long ago, and I even forgotten I wrote that scholarship exam. And then out of the blue, I got the email that says that, I'm being selected for the scholarship program. And that's how I was able to get back into school. MTN funded my education all through the 4 years in school. And then when I finished my university education, I proceeded to this compulsory 1-year national youth service. And I was posted to teach accounting in the school. And when I got into that school in faraway Oyo State in southwestern part of Nigeria, I saw that there were a lot of issues rocking the education space. I began to see myself, few years ago, 10 years ago, right? Even in that same state, because I just thought about it, right? Education hasn't changed much since I left secondary school. The young people in schools today are still facing the same challenges I faced when I was growing up, or even worse challenges. I saw classrooms dilapidated, schools without teachers, schools without books. And so I said, well, let me do what I can here. So I began to collect old and reusable books from my friends and recycle these books to, these children to use. I collect these books, I, get it across to them. And all through that 1 year, I was able to recycle over 3,500 books to help about 1,500 children have access to, reading materials. And, at the end of that 1 year, I just, really reflected on that experience. While what I did was, great impact and mind-blowing in that, little space where I worked, there's a mighty ocean of problems here. System, or who went through that system, do not roll up our sleeves to get involved and rewrite the narrative for these younger people coming up, then education will continually remain in shambles, right? And so for me, that was when, something just really dropped in my heart and my spirit that I need to do more for education. I might apply to different finance houses. Interestingly and fortunately for me, I got jobs in 2 banks, executive-trainee, which is one of the lucrative offers. I also had another offer from Teach for Nigeria. So Teach for Nigeria promising graduates to train and throw. And Teach for Nigeria won't pay me 1/4 of what the banks will pay me. So it was a struggle between my head and my heart. What do I want to do? Do I want to teach for 2 years, or do I want to just run off into the finance house and start building my career? But to cut the long story short, it was a whole lot, right? I made the crazy decision to go teach and abandon those 2 jobs that were offered to me. And I went, into that school for 2 years in Ogun State. And those 2 years practically changed my life because they gave me an immersive opportunity in the education sector. I was able to understand the challenges in the space and then able to now identify one of the challenges that I want to tackle, and that's how Schoolinka was birthed in 2019. So it's really been, my passion for education has really been something deeply rooted in my own lived experiences and how people have stood up for me at different points in my life to ensure that I access quality education. And so for me, it's just me right now paying it forward, standing up for many children across the region, and saying, I'm going to help your teachers become fantastic so they can offer you quality learning experiences. So that's how, the passion grew from. And I'm really excited to be working in education.
Interesting. The passion is definitely there. The lived experience, like you highlighted, it clearly shows in your passion for education, and I applaud you. I applaud you for the fantastic work that you're doing with your company. I guess the follow-up, the natural follow-up question would be about Schoolinka, right? Yeah. Tell us about Schoolinka and the problem that it's solving.
All right, so Schoolinka is solving the problem of poor teaching quality. And at Schoolinka, what we're doing really is to ensure that everyone standing in front of children in the classroom are competent enough to deliver quality learning experiences. So for us, what we do to combat that challenge is to work with education experts to design high quality training content and deliver these training programs to teachers, school leaders, wherever they are, using our digital platform. So there's a digital platform where these teachers sign up as users, take online courses, acquire the skills, take the skills to their classrooms and transform learning with, and get us the data of that transformation, back into our system to continually use to improve our product. And there's also schools as well, using our platform to train their teachers, and also using our platform to find high quality talents to join their school workforce. So we are not just training teachers, we are also helping these teachers find jobs in our partner schools. And so that's what we do. And we also help parents find these teachers. Parents always love to get fantastic tutors for their students. And so we help these teachers earn more income by matching them with these parents who are looking for them to tutor their students. So it's like an entire value chain of professional development and job placement for teachers and schools and parents across the region. And so far, since 2019, when we started, we've been able to train over 3,500 teachers, placed more than 120 in jobs. And we're looking forward to do much more, right? Like I said, there's like the problem for teaching quality is a mighty ocean, and we're just a drop into the issue. And so we're really working hard every day to increase our reach, deepen our impact, and be able to transform, the education in our own context. Yeah.
Amazing stuff. Really amazing stuff. So the three things that pop up in my mind whilst you were speaking about Schoolinka and what you guys do is, one, training. The next one is development, and then the third one I saw is being a bridge where you connect, if you like, teachers and schools, and then students, and then students' parents, and then the teachers as well.
Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into the meat of the matter now. So, there was COVID. With a few people I've spoken to in the space, all of them are actually attributing COVID to being the spark or the catalyst that drove this, if you like, fast-paced adoption of the internet and technology, right? Especially on the continent. So in my country, Ghana, I'll be one of the people to stand to say that, wow, with COVID, quickly, if you like, put us in a position where we realized how we were far behind when it came to the adoption and use of technology. The question I want to ask, right, is, in your opinion, do you think with this, speed of technological advancement, etc., the internet, now we have ChatGPT, we have Bard and all of these AI tools coming up and all, do you think specifically with education, teachers are under some sort of pressure, to catch up with the new knowledge and technology in the space?
Yes. So, of course, I'm happy that you gave that sort of context to the rapid adoption of technology in education, and of course, these emerging technologies such as AI and AR and VR and all of these things in education. And it's really interesting to see all these technologies and see how applicable they are to education. And of a doubt, I mean, it's also good to see that the majority of education stakeholders already know that these technologies are here to stay. And so to answer your questions, I personally am of the opinion that, of course, our ecosystem in education is really under pressure. The education policymakers, the school leaders, the parents, the students, everybody, there's just a lot of, hot pressure going on ahead. There's sometime, in 2020, I remember that time, and, when there's this huge debate around, will technology replace teachers, right? And then people coming up with their own different explanations, saying, no, technology will not replace teachers. It will only replace teachers who don't use technology. And, there's just this all buzz around. Now we have ChatGPT, where teachers can now create lesson plans easily. And educators are like, what's going on? Things are just moving on so fast. So I think there's a lot of, of course, misinformation around technology adoption in education. There's also the part where educators feel like they are being left behind in how this thing moves and how education flows. And for me, I feel like, of course, in as much as there's a rapid adoption of technology in education, I think more still needs to be done in the right education, right? In terms of how do we pass the right information about technology adoption in education? How do we ensure that we are communicating the use of technology in the right way? How do we ensure that we are not communicating the use of technology together with fear of adoption, right? How do we ensure that teachers are not, being skeptical about technology and seeing the fact that technology is just a tool that they can master and use, and not something that should throw their lives in disarray? And I think that we all have a part to play in that, right? The technology developers, right? Those who develop the tools, the education policy makers, they have a part to play. The teacher trainers, organizations like Schoolinka need to start, spreading information about the right use of technology, and also, help teachers understand that technology in itself is a tool and they can be masters of this tool. So, of course, I agree with you. There's a lot of pressure around, but I think we can do something about that pressure. We can fix it by passing the right information about the use of technology in learning. And of course, seeing how our teachers definitely react to that.
I mean, as you're speaking, a question just popped in my mind. So how do you see, if you like, the technology now changing the face of teaching and learning in the next few, decades?
Oh, well, I think we can already see it, right? Teaching and learning is changing very quickly. I mean, when it comes to the emerging technologies that we see with AI, you can learn practically almost anything, right? You can just open ChatGPT and ask it tons of information, and it will keep supplying answers to you. Besides ChatGPT, there are a lot of chatbots here and there right now. In fact, I heard recently that Khan Academy is also building a bot that teaches children coding, which is really interesting. So now students don't need to meet coding tutors to learn coding. They can basically learn from a chatbot, which is crazy, right? By the way. And of course, I tried to check, the chatbot, and I saw that it wasn't only for students to learn coding. Even teachers can, through interaction with that bot, be able to generate very creative and highly engaging lesson plans, right? Which is really good, right? So we can see that technology is bringing much more ease into teaching and learning, ease of access to resources that can help people acquire a lot of information and a lot of knowledge. And that's really good, right? So that means whatever information you need is at your fingertips. And unlike Google, where you have this information, of course, poured out at you, you have AI helping you synthesize this information and processing it in a way that it makes more sense to you. And you get what you need, at that point in time. We also see that teaching and learning is changing in the sense that, for example, at Schoolinka, we started with in-person training programs. So that means educators who are far away from us cannot be able to access training. But what we're seeing right now is the fact that in real time, educators can join training. And educators will not only join training in real time, they can also choose when they want to learn. So as an educator, as a teacher, you can choose when you want to join a class. You can join in the midnight, you can join in the afternoon. So far, you're still learning, right? So you can join at any time, right? Educators really can learn at any point in time, and students can learn at any point in time. You have LMS everywhere. Learning management systems being incorporated everywhere. You have parents now being much more involved in their students' learning with different school management systems that are out there right now. At home, as a parent right now, you can basically, from your office, you can pick up your mobile phone and switch on an app and then be able to see what's going on in your child's classroom. Real time with a camera, see your child practically. And also be able to, you can see how the learning is going on, and you can even provide feedback to the teacher in real time there and there with just a message and say, oh, I see what my son is doing. Why don't we do it this way? Just share your own thoughts. You can also see your child's results in real time, right? So technology is really transforming everything and making us all see education in a different way and in a different light. Teaching and learning is changing rapidly, right? If you look at a higher institution, higher education as well, we can see people learning medicine, learning how to be a doctor, learning how to conduct surgeries or perform surgeries using virtual reality, augmented reality. People working on cadavers live, right? And doing all of these things without not actually being in a laboratory room, right? But just putting a headset on in their head, and they're in this immersive way. We see technology also helping to spread gamified learning, right? People being incentivized for learning through technology. So there's a whole lot. If we keep talking about this, we can talk about it from morning till evening and not end. But technology is really having a great impact on teaching and learning, and it is changing things rapidly.
Interesting. Really, really, really interesting stuff. But as an aside, a quick aside question. Do you think Africa as a continent is ready for this, level of disruption that's happening in education?
Yeah.
You think we are ready?
This is an interesting question, right? So because I feel that this question gets asked a lot, right? And of course, we know that there are institutional voids that exist that basically will affect or hinder the adoption of technology. One of those institutional voids definitely will be, what's the level of access to technology? What's the penetration rate of internet in Africa, in most African countries? What is the technical know-how that users have about technology products, right? So these are what's the knowledge base of the users of the market? But the truth is, if you look at the trend of technology adoption in Africa right now, it is high. You have smartphone devices everywhere right now in sub-Saharan Africa. You have even people earning really low, still being able to afford smartphones and being able to afford internet. Of course, the penetration rate is moving gradually and slowly, but it's at a pace that has never been matched before right now, right? And the point is, there's something about, the economy and the ecosystem and how it's being driven, right? The more investment we have in technology, the more the ecosystem shakes, right? I know that, before you can own a smartphone, you have to be a middle income earner or a high income earner. But now what you see is the fact that smartphone producers are now being adaptive to the market. So you have your different Android mobile phone producers now producing low-end and low-cost mobile phones because they want to reach that market. So things will change. You have internet and telecommunications company bringing out, subscription plans to internet that are low, that will reach the poor of the poorest. So things will change. Things will continue to shake. Market will continue. For every high, high-end gadget, you always have a low-end gadget as an alternative that can be used by people who can afford it. So I would say that, of course, Africa, though with the institutional voice that exists, we are ready for technology in education. Not fully ready in terms of infrastructure, but in terms of mindset, I think we are ready. And if the mindset is there, I believe that others, they just need people who will stand up and build them. They need education entrepreneurs who will say, I want to build this thing so that this person can access this service and this value. And so you start seeing people springing up. In terms of mindset, we're ready. We're ready to take this on. In terms of infrastructure, there's still a long way to go, but the mindsets definitely will build the infrastructures.
A bold claim, but yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. 100% with that. I wanted to ask quickly, with regards to training, training, development, etc., have you identified issues that have to do with, if you like, original thinking, plagiarism, things along those lines, with the advent of using these disruptive technological advancements, so like the internet, ChatGPT, and all of those? The first question was whether we were ready. The second question was with the democratization of learning, right? Teaching and learning, and the way things are, if you like, progressing very quickly. Do you think the model or the model and structure with which we are executing education delivery is going to change, i.e., physically getting up, bathing the child, and then putting the child in a car, taking them to the classroom from 8 to about 3, even all the way to university? Do you think that is going to change?
I 100% know that it will change. Right, it's going to change, definitely. Right, just like the way we eat has changed now. For example, right now, I'm currently ordering one of my favorite meals right now. It's going to arrive in the next 3 minutes on my mobile app. Now I'm just checking it here right now. And I'm going to eat and be very satisfied and enjoy the dish without ever entering the kitchen or taking up a pot or mixing up ingredients, right? Because someone somewhere has cooked it and someone somewhere has built an app that can help me connect to that person who has cooked it. So that's a practical example, right? A lot of things are changing. The way you move around has changed, right? Before, people move around on their feet, on their legs. And then people started discovering that they can use horses and camels to travel long distances. And there's this story that we used to tell with AI, right? When the cars were being produced, a lot of people stood up and criticized cars. And we're like, we will never drive in that thing.
Right. And
you know what their point of, disagreement was the fact that the horses and camels we ride on have eyes. They can see. They want to get into a pit, or if they want to fall into or hit a tree. Right. But the cars don't have eyes, right? The cars, you need someone to drive them. But you and I know, if you see someone saying they're going for an interview and they say they want to ride a camel to the interview, it's just the way it is, right? Things are changing. Technology is going to change things. Those who stood on the fence those days and say they were not going to drive cars today, right now, if they are alive, they will be seeing what has happened, with the advent of technology. Technology definitely, when it comes, it changes things. The way we communicate today has changed, right? I've not seen my uncle in over 3 years, but I know what he's doing currently right now because I have a mobile phone that I can use to place a call through to him. So just the same way things are changing with technology, it's going to happen with how we go to school as well. For example, ULesson Group just launched Miva University. Miva University is an online university. You can acquire degrees in computer science. And this is not an ad, but basically just to really, mention the fact that technology is changing things. So what it means right now is the fact that they even told the applicants that they don't need to write the National University Tertiary Matriculation Examination, UTME exam, right? They don't need to write that exam to get into their school. Just apply on their platform and then you can get an admission spot into the Miva University and get your degree without ever having to attend any campus. You can see how interesting that is. And it's going to happen to children. For example, at Schoolinka right now, we have our EnterClass service. EnterClass is a tutor matching service. And we match tutors with children for online classes. So we have African teachers that are matched to to parents who live and students who live outside Nigeria. So you have people who are tutoring students outside the country. So that means these children don't have to be in their four walls of the classroom to be able to access learning from these fantastic educators. So that's how things will change. You narrated a scenario that children have to get, you need to wake up your child in the morning and then, wash them up and then get them into the car and get them into school. But these days, students don't even need to wake up in the morning to attend school. They can basically wake up in the morning to play and then attend classes by 5 p.m. in the evening. Or anytime they want to do it, right?
Yeah.
So the way we do teaching and learning definitely 100% is changing right now. We continually change.
Kayode, I'm sure the listeners are really enjoying this, really riveting conversation we are having about how technology is really disrupting the education space. I was really excited about the example you gave about the car and how when it came out, people were literally talking about. I mean, look at me in 2023. You telling me that, I'm like, what is that? What you were thinking at that time? But I mean, it goes to show how. I mean, initially the disruption can be scary. It can get people really fearful, and it puts them in a position where they fail to see beyond, what the fear is showing them. And that was a really, really good example you shared. We are wrapping up, and I'd like you to highlight, if you like, one example of a problem that you are facing with your rollout of Schoolinka.
Yeah, so I would say the major challenge that we're facing really is, the perceived value that Africans place on learning and place on education. I think that on this continent, more still needs to be done to emphasize the importance of continuous professional development for anybody, right? But if you look at it and drill it down to education, it's more worse, right? And the reason why it's more worse is because, there are different factors at play. You go to meet a school leader and say, oh, I think your school needs to invest in professional development, and they're telling you why. How does that connect to the bottom line? Does that increase the profit of the school, right? So they see training for their teachers as an expense that is made that does not directly connect to income made into the school's pocket, right? And so that's a challenge, because it becomes increasingly difficult for you to convince a school to then, sign up their teachers for professional development, because they don't see how that investment makes sense when it comes to financial ROI. You also speak to teachers and say, come and access training. And they're like, why should I access training? Will I get promoted at school if I access training? So there is this point where the career trajectory, or let me say, the career trajectory of teachers in Nigeria, in Africa, does not reward educators who invest in their own continuous professional development, right? So there's nothing that says when you attain this level of training or when you access this kind of training, we will definitely add to your responsibilities and probably promote you or increase your pay. So these are the challenges that we currently face. So it's really difficult for us to convince a teacher that training is very important. So for us, it's really around, how do we work with the highly motivated teachers who come to us by themselves to get trained? And how do we sensitize those who are not motivated to learn to pick up training and then start learning? It can be very challenging to do that, right? And so for us, our job in terms of marketing our training programs starts first from sensitizing and orientating the market about the value of professional development. And after we must have done a good job in doing that, in emphasizing that value and helping them understand that value and them internalizing that, then we can now present our programs to them.
Right.
So while other traditional markets will go straight at marketing their product and selling, we are first doing a lot in orientation that might or might not lead to adoption of our product. So that's a very challenging thing for us. We're also seeing, of course, technology, the huge digital divide that exists in sub-Saharan Africa. And right now, what we're looking at, the big question that we're currently asking ourselves is, how can we scale high quality training to teachers in remote communities in a very fast way without really relying on high-speed internet access? So there's a concept we're currently building on right now. I mean, no much details to share about it. It's called the Schoolinka CPD dongle, where we can host all our content on a device, and this device can be taken across remote community, and then going right into that project currently.
What's one problem you're facing with your rollout of Schoolinka?
All right. So one problem that we're facing really is the problem of value reorientation or value orientation, right, and emphasizing the need for continuous professional development on the part of schools and teachers. The truth is, schools don't see how investment in professional development actually connects to their bottom line in terms of financial ROI. And then teachers as well don't see how investment in their own continuous pay in their teaching jobs or getting promoted. And so for us, our challenge really is not only to market the products and services that we offer, it's really around how do we emphasize the value of continuous investment in professional development to schools and teachers. And then we can now start talking about marketing our products and services to them. This has been a challenge for us because, it has really hindered our growth. But I think we're cracking that already.
This was thoroughly enjoyable. I hope the listeners all over the world who are listening picked a thing or two, and even to the young people who are listening and even looking to enter the education space in order to bring some sort of positive change. I hoped Kayode's story will give enough motivation to you and push you as you seek to make an impact in education on the continent. Kayode, thank you so much for sharing your story. You have inspired me. You've filled my tank with positivity, with a new vision. Thank you for broadening my mind and giving me new information. Thank you for Schoolinka and the good work that it's doing to bring about positive change in education. It was a pleasure having you on today. Yes, it was an absolute pleasure having you today.
I enjoyed myself here as well.
Fantastic. And to our listeners, thank you for having us today. Thank you for listening to this really exciting episode. There's more where that came from. We'll be interviewing really exciting people who are making big changes across the continent within the education space. Until same time, watch out for the next episode. I'm sure it's going to be a blast. Thank you. And Kayode, enjoy that meal I'm sure it has gotten to your gate by now.
Yeah, it's already on my gate. I'm going out to get it now.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah. Bon appetit, my friend.
All right. Thank you so much, Kwame.
Thank you and take care.
Bye. And bye, everyone, too.
Bye, guys. Bye.